And, in the moment you don't have an idea, but that's really the space I came from. And you could say that was my mindset, that I was not going to be a victim to this incident. There was a reason it happened. We all can hear it. There was nothing new I discovered, that this was out of alignment with my health or my relationship was suffering. We knew that. We had been in couples counseling. It was that I wasn't ready to take action, and I wasn't really ready to have the experience. And I will tell you, that is still my gauge. Like, am I getting the message, or do because I don't want to stand in line for a hammer. You don't need a hammer to create change and growth. I am a believer that we author our lives, but our curriculum is, I'm the only one responsible for my curriculum.
How are you handling all that life throws your way? What will happen to make you really stop, become more aware of what you truly want, and finally take action towards getting there? Do you really want to be hit up by a hammer to experience that life-changing moment? What the heck does that mean anyways? Well, if you've listened to any of my Life Reimagined podcasts, you've already heard from so many amazing women who have had their life detoured or disrupted unexpectedly. And you've also heard how much it awakened them and led them to their true purpose, and now how they consider it more of a blessing than anything. But what are some of the reasons or critical steps that these seemingly ordinary women took that really allowed them to take these tough challenges and really kick everything in their life into high gear? My guest Claudine today will share her personal experience and how she believes it was her mental fitness to handle her near-death experience that made all the difference, and how her life-altering moment led her down a completely different path and helped her become the author in her own life.
So it's fitting to spend a bit of time today talking about one of the most critical components in each of the success stories, say that 5 times fast, that I've been sharing with you if you've listened to any of the podcast episodes. And you might even feel like you know a little bit about today's subject, and that is mental fitness and positive intelligence. And you know it's important, but do you understand it enough, and are you using it enough to be able to more quickly handle life's challenges and stress? Because, your mental fitness affects everything. And there's so much research showing us how mental fitness is really the best predictor of happiness and how you're going to perform related to your potential. And what the heck does it mean, potential? It means how you show up as a mom, how you show up as a partner, how you show up as a worker, right? However you show up in your world. So I'm really excited today to have an expert with me, Claudine Chiarmanta. I'm going to say it as close as I can to the Italian. She's an expert psychotherapist, coach, and speaker with over 30 years of experience transforming lives. And she's going to connect and share today a little bit more about how, unfortunately, about 5 years ago, she went through a near fatal car accident. But how that experience, again, had a life-changing effect and really helped awaken her to her purpose. And it probably sounds familiar because that seems to be the theme of all my guests. But she left her senior exec position, sold her home, moved out of state, ended a relationship, yada, yada, yada. So I'm really excited to have Claudine join us today from Florida. Welcome, Claudine.
Thank you, Wendy. It's a pleasure to be here, always.
Oh, I'm really excited to have you here. And I just want to say that, so Claudine and I connected on Clubhouse. And I hopped into a room. If you've not been on Clubhouse before, I hopped into a room and the subject was kind of already going. So I was late to the party. And Claudine was speaking. And the way she was talking about reframing and how you're attacking everything in your world from your mental fitness completely connected with me. So it was, I was typing fast and furiously to invite her to come join us on a show. So Claudine, why don't you hop in here and talk about, I want to start first of all with the fact that you had this crazy life altering experience almost 5 years ago, because that really led you to where you are today, even though you had already been, I believe, helping others in therapy, but this really changed things for you. So talk a little bit about how that experience, kind of the details of what happened, and then how you decided to translate that into what you're doing today.
Sure. It's going to be 6 months next month. So 6 years, next month. So yeah, it's so fascinating. At the time, right, success by all of our, I'm going to say what I accepted as society and my family's value system, married, had a beautiful home, and had a significant career as, at that time, a child advocate for the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
I was an assistant commissioner and director of quality assurance for the state of New Jersey's child welfare system. And that day, by the way, it was a 2.5-hour ride each way to school, work and home. Yeah.
Well,
and that day, the feds were coming to audit the state. It's a usual. Every region gets certain visits a year by the feds, and so I was the host because they come in to look at our quality indicators. I'm on the way to work about a mile from my house. I'm going around a bend, and I see this Jaguar coming. Didn't see it, and then the bend came, and the next thing he was in front of my car, and he hit me. Relatively short, but, I would say slow accident, but significant damage. I spent 9 weeks in rehab, about a week and a half in ICU, trauma ICU, as medvac to a New Jersey hospital. And I was very heavily medicated, Wendy. I mean, I remember the first day, because of internal injuries, they couldn't medicate me. I can remember things starting to flood into my room, but no ability cognitively. And once the meds took over, I wasn't taken off them for probably about 3 weeks. So I was pretty out of it. I'm going to tell you, I sustained injuries. All of my front was all fractured. My sternum, my collarbones, my ribs, my spine in several areas, my legs, my feet. The foot is reason why I didn't walk, particularly my talus bone, which really gives your ankle the ability to move. And I remember as they titrated my medication, I was on the phone with my best friend. And the first thing I said to her was, I've got to learn the lesson of this. This would have happened I wouldn't have attracted this if there wasn't a lesson. She could hear me. My family was furious. What do you mean a lesson? That son of a, and he was drug driving. He was on ketamine. Yeah. He hit me full blast, came out. He had one scratch on his arm.
It's amazing.
And I had to wait for them to get the jaws of life. And they brought the small one. I had to wait and go get the other one to get me out. And, in the moment you don't have an idea, but that's really the space I came from. And you could say that was my mindset, that I was not going to be a victim to this incident. There was a reason it happened. I am a believer that we author our lives. And I don't mean that we call in abuse. So I'm always very cautious to say this. But our curriculum is, I'm the only one responsible for my curriculum. There's abuse and other things, but how did I attract it? I'm not saying how did I cause this accident, but what did I do in that day that had me be that spot at that moment? That's where I am accountable to. And it's not a blame game. It's, I want to leverage this, and that's what I did. And I spent a long time, and that's what happened was I got to reevaluate. I spent a lot of time in rehab, right? There's no visitors.
Right.
I was in a spinal cord injury. There were people there that will never walk again. And I was like, I was in a metal vest for many months, but it didn't feel like I had a right to be there because my prognosis was not their prognosis. And it was very shaming and sometimes very uncomfortable. And that's where I started. It was like, nope. And that was the only person, this friend that I could really have that conversation. Slowly, my brother, but not initially. And it had me evaluate. And I think that's one of the first steps we get to always take is our awareness. What is this showing me? What am I aware? What was out of alignment? And for me, Wendy, my life was out of alignment. If anywhere you're spending 5 hours in your day traveling, now you and I both know we have meetings you kind of travel for, but it didn't have me I didn't show up in my life in a way that I wanted to at that time. My health was burning at both ends. My relationship was pretty stale. We didn't have energy, right? We're both successful business people. Very different industries, but when it came down to the calendar of what was left in the bank for the relationship, it was this big.
Right.
And, and that's where I started to slowly take the evaluations. Like, okay, so you have awareness and then you start to audit and go, what's going on here, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things I should be doing and I haven't done, right? I should be taking care of my health. I should be working probably in something that's not as stressful, right? And having that, those difficult conversations inside and outside, and clearing it up. Are we on the same vision? And my relationship wasn't. I didn't work for many, many months. So I will say that I didn't come to the conclusion of ending the job. The generosity of working for a state government position was I got donated to me through colleagues enough to keep me out of work for 6 months.
Nice.
And yeah, I went back to work one day and I went, what am I doing? And I went home and I was like, oh my God, it's not just the relationship that's got to go.
Right.
And I only got it had lived its life. I'm honored for the 13 years we were married. But this has got to go too. There's no way I'm going to heal to come back to this because it's very high pressured. We you have the most traumatic cases, usually child death related. It's heavy. And I handed my resignation. I was back to work literally within the first week. I handed my resignation.
Yeah.
And I had no job. So just, it wasn't like, how usually you take a position, you got to go like this.
I know. Yeah.
And what really grounded me was also having people. I'm a believer in having tribes. And for me, my inner circle kept me very much afloat mentally and emotionally during that time so that I could, because I was going to PT 4 or 5 days a week.
Right.
And even back to work, I was still going 3 days a week.
Right. And it's not like, 20-minute sessions. These are, they're a while.
No, right. And that's where the next step is, right after we do the awareness and the audit, it's like, where do I take action? And, action was, resigning. And action for me was also recentering my health priorities. And I've always been a woman of weight. And it has a lot of conversations, a lot of ways it's impacted my life. So again, that became an area of action, was like, I'm learning to walk. And where else can I, get myself in shape? And so there was like a series of actions so I could advance my life.
Yeah.
And that's a model in which I coach through, but it's also a very effective way of, right, we talk about habit. You don't just go and go, I'm going to create a habit. No, you do that because you've audited your life somewhere and you're like, something's not working.
Right.
And it was really like, I limped literally into a leadership training. Something like Landmark or EST. I don't know if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah. Yes.
And it blew my world up in the sense of it was a mirror. Like saying, Claudine, what do you want to do now? And what I really walked away with was a lot of the distinctions that I now live my life by. But I can remember ending one of the classes. You really say, hi, it's great to see you. And it's a year later. Where are you going to be? Great to meet you. I'm going to be living in Florida and I'm going to be a coach, and I'm in this relationship. None of this was based on any plans, by the way.
Right.
Was in the space of declaring a future with no evidence that it even come to existence. And so about a year and a half later, I was in Florida. A week later, I flew to California to graduate as a coach.
Yeah.
It set forth, right? It's from that mindset of what's possible. And we call that a growth mindset. And that's what I did. It was, what was the next step for me? Taking charge of health, losing, and shedding 160 pounds ultimately, new lifestyle, new relationship, new state, as you said. So that training really was the catalyst for so much that I was ready to hear.
Right. And that's, I think, a critical piece is the timing, right? Because we get messages not too dissimilar from this already, but we've been too busy, right? We were too busy succeeding at everything else that we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I agree with you. Right? Isn't it that message like you can get it in a feather or a hammer?
Yeah.
And we all do. We all can hear it. There was nothing new I discovered that this was out of alignment with my health or my relationship was suffering. We knew that. We had been in couples counseling. It was that I wasn't ready to take action. and I wasn't really ready to have the experience. And I will tell you, that is still my gauge. Like, am I getting the message, or do because I don't want to stand in line for hammer. You don't need a hammer to create change and growth. And so that's my checkpoint. Like, I'm not getting that hammer again. Like, am I living in alignment with my vision, and particularly my values and principles? And that's what grounds me, and then what's next, right? Like, how do I keep the momentum? And for me, I'm all about mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Coming from the space of, right, declaring what's possible, taking accountability, right? Seeing the positive outlook, because we can look at one thing, right? I have my prescription and I could say, look at all the dangers. And someone else can look at it and go, yeah, but look at the payoff and the excitement, and you could be the first one, right? Like Steve Jobs.
Right.
Go for iPod or just stick to a computer. And he had the foresight in that moment to declare without evidence that we needed iPods.
Right. And change the world.
Yeah. And that's the positive mindset that isn't going to rest on what I know and stay safe. I call it safe. It's our comfort zone.
Yep.
Some people call it, looking good. It's our survival context. Like, don't move me out of here. I know this.
Right. Yep.
I know this.
I know this. And I'm good at this.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's familiar.
And it's this label that we put too much importance into.
Yeah. And it's because of our values, though, right?
Right.
There's a story, and I often will say, so are you looking at the past to predict your future, or do you want to be here and write your future? It's two very different actions, because if I look in the back of my life, I have a lot of evidence why I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't date that, I shouldn't buy that kind of car, or I'm going to be like, I want to change things up. I want to expand. I want a new experience. Right? Then I'm going to author my future and say, thank you, past. And I've learned, and I can take that. I trust myself, and I'm going to pick something different now.
Yeah.
And that's like the hardest part. I believe we often have blinders. We call them blind spots in coaching.
Yeah.
Where we don't see where we're holding on to something that is not effective any longer. We're holding on to a story or something that we call evidence, right? Which is, I believe we call fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yep.
And you can't change my mind on it. Nope, I'm right.
Yep.
Okay. You could be right, but you're going to stay here.
Right.
You say you want to be in an ultimate relationship, or you want to, keep your weight off. Well, it's going to take some commitment, new actions to be, show up as a person to have it. I believe in the be, do, have, right? Like, set my intention of how I'm going to show up, and my actions are in alliance, in accordance with that, so that I have what I say I want, and I believe we live in a society that goes, I want to be happy, so I need to buy that house or date that person or get that hot, sexy car.
External. Yep. All external locus of control. Yep. Right.
Exactly, right? Look at our millionaires who are like bummed out. They get money and they're still like miserable. It's like, you've got to be the happiness that you say you want to have. You can't wait and go, I'll have something and then I'll be happy.
But one of my theories in everything that you're speaking to, of course, I can totally subscribe to the same beliefs. I think one of the hardest things to do, especially as women, is to ask ourselves, what do we really want? I don't know if it's, again, fear, or if it's just easier to busy yourself in the day to day, and put the blinders on and just keep going. And then just, what are the, crossing your fingers that things are going to change, right? Right.
I think you're right, Wendy, and I want to expand it. I think there's, right, in our society, we go, hi, I'm Claudine. What do you do for a living?
Right. This label. How do we bucket you?
Yeah, exactly. We bucket you, but your value is based on the contribution you make through this mechanism of work.
Yeah.
Versus, right, like, how are you? And like, what are you grateful for?
Yeah, right.
Like, it would be really different to meet somebody and say that, but we don't, right? So I think there's that. And I think there's societal pressures, right? That is some of how we can gauge everybody. We can gauge you by your titles, your bank account, your salaries. And I also think there's a different thing for women. I think there is societal norms that have women boxed, right? There's a complex of commercialism combined with governmental laws and norms. I'm not saying they're bad or wrong. They just
There's
are.
norms, right?
Yeah, and value systems that have also kind of constricted. And I think that's really what we've seen these last 10 years, women, again, bucking, and we're talking glass ceilings and Me Too. Right? Victims have been with us forever, but they're finally saying, no, you get to hear about it. And I think that's what's happening is women are starting to get their voice and empowerment. And it's like, I don't want to be limited by how you define me. I'm going to define me.
Yeah.
And you're right. But that's going to take generations to peel back.
It will. It will. And it's
Right?
great to see. And actually, we're in, I think, even a greater position of responsibility, not only to ourselves at this moment in this evolution of womanhood, right? But also in mentoring those who are coming up after us.
Yeah.
And, we learned so much, and our mothers and our grandmothers gave us wonderful, loving messages. And, even though they were meant, again, with the best of intentions, things really change, and they may not, like you said, always be serving us. So now we have an opportunity not only to break that ceiling or break those norms, but also influence others by saying, okay, take that risk, because it really, your happiness, like you said, it's so critical. And you can make your own happiness. You can author the life you want, which I love that phrase.
Oh my gosh, yes. We are the authors of our lives.
But most people feel, again, are too passive. So how do you get to the point of ready to actually step in, put the big girl boots on and do it?
Yeah. And there's a passivity, and I think there's a fear of, and this is where the positive intelligence is. I call it saboteur. Right. We can call it negative beliefs. We call it self-limiting beliefs. There's lots of words for it. But I think we spend a lot of time in survival brain, right? Like fight, flight, or freeze. Like we're always assessing, how do I respond? Some people do. Like I'm a freezer. I get overwhelmed. I just shut down. That drives my partners crazy. But that's me, right? My family members, we have a lot of fighters. Like they're ready to take it on. Let's go. And I'm like, check out. And that stress and anxiety that starts to happen, though, is where I'll just call it the voices start coming up. And that they chip away at you could say our confidence, our self-trust, our belief in our abilities, and our purpose. Like it erodes. It literally erodes. I will share mine. So one of my, saboteurs, positive intelligence believes, right, in having both a survivor brain, which would be our saboteurs, or what we would call our wisdom, our inner knowing, which we call sages. The saboteurs are broken into 9 of them, and we all have the judge. Everyone's got the judge, according to positive intelligence, which is that voice that, right, criticizes yourself, others.
To this, to that, to the...
Right? Yeah. You didn't get that right. You're bad enough. You're not good enough. You're this. Or the situation isn't right. Like, oh, you didn't do that nice. I would have set the table much nicer than you.
Yes. Well, absolutely.
And all the other saboteurs combined with the judge. So for me, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And it's called a stickler. And you get caught up in the self-abuse of not being perfect enough. And it's paralyzing. Like, so you don't take action because it's like, right, where it came from, it had a lot of use. In my family dynamics, me showing up as a good girl in midst of my family really added some peace for my mother and my father. I was a very good daughter.
Right.
But it was at a cost to me. I didn't know that. I mean, it wasn't like anyone sat around.
Right.
But what it did is, when a situation arises in my life, I go to that, right?
Right.
And I start to analyze, like, oh, did I do that well enough? Did I do that right enough? Did I say enough? And you wear down a trust in my inner knowing and my truth. And I find that, so you can call them anything you want, but there's a story or approach or a lens that people have that is their prominent operating system. I'll just use that.
Yep.
And it interferes with optimal functioning, intimacy, relationships, decision-making, self-trust, ability to be creative gets impacted.
Right.
Right? Because if you're hyper vigilant and you're looking and you say, this world's dangerous.
Right.
Who's got time to be creative? You're just looking for the pitfall.
Right.
Because it's out there. I'm telling you, right?
Right.
And what I tend to do is really work on the mindset, because we know that part of our brain is, right, our limbic system. It's our left side. It's always looking for something, right? Situation or something that have to respond to. And it's usually through negative emotions. It gets triggered by stress or anger, anxiety. This has been I would say, a historic year and a half in our country.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. I mean, the grief, the stressors, and not for everybody, but there was a general feel of anxiety and grief in our country.
Yeah.
Whether we're directly impacted or not, it's contagious. Those energies are very contagious. So if I'm with someone who's anxious, like, I've got to take care of myself or set a boundary. Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of that, impacting people.
Yeah.
So I work with them from that mindset, because that's a very fixed mindset, like danger, or stickler,
right?
The judge. There's a lot of fun ones, like the victim, right? Have we all not been like the victim?
Yeah, victim. This happens to them. Yes,
right?
No fault of their own. Never.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep. And if you only followed my way, you wouldn't have that problem.
The world would be perfect, right? Yes.
But you choose to do it your own way. Fine.
Right.
You like that? A controller. We see a lot of controller.
Okay.
I'm not. I may have a little of that in me, right? Like, I know the way. I know the order. We should do this.
Yeah.
But all this creates positions between people, right? Like, I can't have intimacy even in a friendship if I'm in my controller and you're in yours. Man, we're going to dance.
Right.
And it ain't going to be pretty.
Right.
And we really use a series of mindful techniques to shift, because when we're in that brain, the availability to say, come on, let's find win-win, Wendy. Mm-hmm. Your brain may be like, oh, I'll win you. I'm going to win every point, right? Right. You're going down. Right. I see you dropping your fence. I got this one. And so we do some mindfulness, as subtle as rubbing our two fingers together so gently that you can feel like the fingerprints of each finger. A lot of breath. Mm-hmm. Take deep breaths. Feel your body move. I personally like the wiggling of my toes and try to count them and wiggle. Not easy, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Because what we're doing is we're creating a different wiring, right? Because when we're in our saboteur survival brain, it's a wiring. Our neurotransmissions are, right? The neuroplasticity is like, saboteur. We're asking our brain now to make a left turn, go different. And we're going to go to the right side of your brain and access this other part. And it can't happen just by we've got to change something. Like Tony Robbins calls these state changes. I often in sessions will say, get up, get into your warrior pose. Yep. Let's do some deep breathing together. We're looking to change the environment, the inner environment, so that the person has access to their, I'm going to call it inner knowing, their wisdom, their sage. I often call it the inner Jedi.
Yeah. I love the Jedi too.
I'm Star Wars, right?
I love it. Yep.
Okay. My saboteur is like, Darth Vader-ness. Okay. And my sage is my Jedi-ness. Because when we're in that space, we have the possibility, it's the growth mindset, that we're open for feedback. We're open to go, oh, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
And that, I know, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yes.
I know.
You welcome it. That's what discovery is what I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because if I say I know it all, there's no possibility. When I'm open, my body's open, my mind, I can receive and be like, oh, great, I can collaborate now with you. Mm-hmm. I can shift into a place of knowing I'm safe, right? And I'm open to the growth. This is where our empathy lies, our curiosity, our explorer, right? We can look around for other ideas and start to navigate through, and all that's available in that side. Mm-hmm. But, again, not in the fix, but in the growth mindset. I think for me, where, because of the weight loss, I'll just say, right, my weight, because I can look back, I'm 54 years old. There's no small pictures of me. I'll just be very honest with you. I only had one weight loss experience, but I've been in Weight Watchers since I'm 7.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And I didn't understand that. I just got the message something was wrong with me, but I didn't look down at me and go, as a 7-year-old, well, I'm quite overweight.
Right.
I just was sitting in Weight Watchers embarrassed. Like, why is a kid here with these elderly people? They all were old to me, by the way.
Right.
And I got a message that I wasn't okay. As I was, for my family standards and values, there was something about me that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So my saboteur has been, I'll just say, bathing in my overweightness for years. It's a cycle. And I can say, you could take this in anything. Weight is just the example right now.
Sure.
That when we have something about ourselves that we're not pleased with, we then beat ourselves with it. We use it as evidence that we're not good enough. We shouldn't have, we're not deserving of, how can I, like, all this just keeps us in a cycle. And for this particular addiction would keep me in the cycle of eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
We could talk about dating that way, the getting a perfect job, right? Like, I'm not smart enough. I'm stupid. Of course, they're not going to, like, one mistake and that it could be it for somebody.
Right.
And when I look at those conversations, the only thing it had available to me was to stay heavy. Mm. There was nothing of possibility and compassion in that dialogue. And the people I went to reflect something back couldn't give me something more than, you're not okay.
Right.
And needing to shift that, it really was through a series of coaching, and then, where I got the health coaching mixed with commitment, right? Of going, this is not the life I want, right? I think I had a doctor after my 3rd knee surgery say to me, no more gardening and no more playing with your nieces and nephews.
What?
And I was like, what?
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah. And that was hammer.
I was just going to say, there's the hammer right there.
And that was it for me. It was, I can remember going home and going, oh my God, life has got to change. And Wendy, I will tell you, when I stood in front of that mirror and I was on a scale at 362 exactly. 362. I didn't see 362 pounds. I had lived a journey that I would have told you, I got 200 pounds. Yeah. Right? It didn't. And then once I had a number, it was like, oh my God. That's all I could see was 360 pounds. It became like something was shifted off my, lens right. And I would say it took years of commitment. It still takes it. I say to people, right, I still live sometimes minute to minute or hour to hour. If my stressors are up and right, I'm getting activated and I don't take the time to reground myself or rebalance, right? I go for that natural, like, oh, just give me food.
Give me food. Right. Because that's the comfort right there. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, oh, wait a second. I have other things available to me now.
Right.
I can put my app on to meditate. I could journal a little. I could get outside. I call it getting feet in the grass.
Yeah.
Because from that space, I have another option. I go from my fixed mindset to my growth mindset and go, oh, wait.
Yeah. Being
outside under the sun. And I'm going to tell you, my other hack is gratitude. Mm-hmm. When we move into not gratitude as a list, and I subscribe this to a lot of my clients, like, I did that. I did 5 things. Tick, 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 tick. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
You do gratitude, but you got to be gratitude.
Right.
And that's really like, if you're grateful for that smile you received at the counter today, when you're, getting olives, which I did this morning, that's gratitude. You feel it, like that moment of like, oh yeah, it was great. That broad smile, like, thank you for that. Yeah. Like, thank you for that phone call, right? Really being in it, not just rattling off 5 things, because there's no space for any of the, I'll call it the heavier emotions when we're in gratitude. Like anger dissipates, anxiety dissipates, like we're present to gratitude, right? Because when we're present, we're available and we have opportunities. When we're not present, we're really kind of fixing our own circus.
Yep.
Right. And we're armored up. As Brene Brown would say, we're armored up. And in that, there's not going to be a connection with self, other, or our vision and purpose. Mm-hmm. So that's how I work, but I try to live. It's not I try. I live by that. And I'm also all about habits. Like, I believe we are a result of the habits we practice.
Yep. Agree.
And,
yep.
Right. That's mind, body, spirit, whatever they are for you.
Yep.
But I think there's a set of them, and I call them rituals in the morning. Like I say to people, you have a routine for the morning and a routine for night. Mm-hmm. People are like, yeah, brush my teeth and I get in bed.
Right.
And that's a routine.
Yep.
And what can you add to it to bring your day to a close with a period and not just left open-ended? Mm-hmm. Right? Because we know from studies that the energy and the mood we go to sleep in is the mood we wake up in.
Ooh. Okay.
So if you go to bed, I'll just say, and I've gone to bed agitated, like, why would I want to?
Or antsy, right?
Yeah, right. So that's when I do either my gratitude list. So it's every night I do 5. Mm-hmm. Either I share them within myself or I share them with my partner. And there's times I also do accomplishments because I find that we often, and particularly with women, but I'm not saying men too.
Absolutely agree.
We don't talk about our accomplishments. It's supposed to be.
Right.
And I'm like, no,
we don't celebrate these milestones along the way.
Little ones.
I know, but they're so significant in how our lives are detouring in a much better direction.
Yes.
But we're so quick to be still looking ahead for whatever that is. And
that's done. I did that.
Right. Like you said, check. I know.
Check. And so my partner and I have a ritual. If I have a win or they have a win, we fist bust and we like chest bust, like sumo wrestlers. And when we don't see in ourselves, we do it for the other. Mm. So it could be as subtle as I just finished a coaching series, my course. And it's like high five, right? Like for me, I'm done. Like, oh, it was great. It was a great experience. Like, no, like let's celebrate these women who took their lives on, right? Like, and so it's our way of pausing and doing some inventory of like, because accomplishments aren't always about that thing being done. It's about who did I show up as to have this finish.
Right.
Right. Like,
right.
People go, yeah, I got my college degree. As if it's not just about the degree. It's like, what was your commitment during these years? And how did you show up to get this degree on this day?
Right.
You celebrate all 4 years. Or if you're on a 6-year track, okay, then you celebrate all 6 years.
Right.
Not just,
because you invested in yourself and yes.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of my 2 practices at the end of my night is gratitude or accomplishments or both. There's some nights where I kind of like, something. I lived into my commitments today because I always do.
I love how you said and put a period at the end of it, like to close it down. And that, again, each one of these intentional, mindful steps forward are creating this circle of energy and reinforcing again how fortunate we are and all the blessings in our world. And again, more gratitude.
Yep, exactly. It's really, every once in a while in our family we have a saying, "How dare I ask for more?" And it's because we have so much, and I'm emotional because my family is so blessed.
Yeah. In
so many ways, not just from health and prosperity. And we continue to get like someone in the family gets another gift and you're like, oh my God, how dare I ask for more?
Right.
And it's a prayer and it's a thank you at the same time. Like,
right.
Are you kidding? Let's break bread and celebrate it and give thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that, again, this growth mindset is going to continue to bring more blessings into your world.
It actually, you said a word before, right? It's an energy.
Yeah.
And it's a vibration. So when this would be me. If I was thinking of a growth mindset, I'd be like, right? A fixed mindset.
Right.
Growth is got, right? It's not just this. Let's be very honest. It's this.
It is. It's a lot of this.
Yeah. But it's got energy. It's got aliveness. It's got a frequency that attracts to us more of what we're seeking. Like all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, I just got this call. Of course, because you've been putting it out there.
Right.
Like you authored this because you've been the one who's committed to this. So I I think it's just that beautiful interplay of recognizing that we are a vibrational machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's putting that stuff out there, and right. And people are always like, well, things don't change in my life. I kind of,
Yep.
right. Like, how do you want to get unstuck? And I don't say that lightly. Going into coaching or therapy is an act of trust and vulnerability.
It is. And
But it's
patience.
an investment.
And patience, because especially for us, we want it fixed now, right? So I'm going to come, I'm going to share with you for an hour, and blah, it's going to be all better, right? So patience with the unknown and patience with the journey, I know, is huge too.
Yeah, it's a learning. And I often, like Yoda will say, it's the unlearning of what we've learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlearn what you learned, because everything we learned is in the back.
Yeah.
And if we keep saying, well, that's how it was, that's what I did, you're going to keep getting more of that.
Yeah.
And right, you're right. It's the patience. It's willing to also peel away. I'm going to say there's some work to be done at times. Of going, what breakthrough do you get to have? How do you get to see this differently?
Yeah.
What are the things that you've known that have been sitting there, and you like, even though you just hired a coach or therapist, you think we're going to say, oh, you don't need to do those 3 things.
Right.
Yeah, right. You got to do those 3 things.
Right.
And what do you need to get them done? And that's okay.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Trust the process. Oh yeah.
Well, it's just wonderful hearing more. I think more from you on the clarity of the message that you share and how you're working with women. I've just experienced almost everything. Thankfully, not the car crash. So not that hammer. Thankfully, not that. But, my own professional life, I was going down a track and I was going to be there forever, and that was it and everything. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And it was even more surprising to me that I wasn't anymore. And I didn't want that anymore. And so no idea where I was going to end up, and love what's happened. And literally about, I don't know if it was like 6 or 8 weeks ago, I remember waking up one morning and I was just awake real early. And I remember sitting there thinking, I have everything I could have wanted. Like, I am so blessed and so fortunate. And I didn't know I even wanted where I am, but how wonderful it is that I got here. How cool is that, right? So again, I think it's that everything that you talk about, I think what I hope people take away from this is they might go, oh, great, therapy or talking about positive mindset. Yeah, I'm a positive gal. I'm positive. No, that's not it. There's so much more that you can be showing up for yourself. And I love that also, that it's not for others, but it's for you.
It is. Yeah. And I think that the fact that we call it mental fitness is right. Is a play on physical fitness, because it's a commitment. It's not like you're going to walk in the gym and go, Wendy, just go over there and lift 200 pounds.
Right.
I often tell you've got to work your way up, but it's a commitment to that journey.
Yeah.
And it's like brushing your teeth. You don't do it once. You do it over time, because the benefit happens over time.
Yeah.
But it also tells us, in the sense of mental fitness, that we have agency over working on this, right?
Yeah.
If we want to work on it, we can work on it. Same with your physical. You can work on it if you want to work on it. You get your results is what you get.
Yeah.
And I think it gives back choice to people. And sometimes I actually don't think people want the choice. It's easy to go, well,
it's hard.
You didn't do that, so that's why I'm not happy. It's like, no, guess what?
Right.
You work at it, you're going to get happiness. You're going to get sustained peace of mind.
Yeah.
Sustained happiness. What can you generate from that space? But did you get in the gym today? Did you get into the mental fitness gym? Did you get into the physical gym? Move your body, enrich your mind.
Yeah.
That's our choice.
Yeah.
Each day.
Yeah. All right. So because I'm really hoping that people who are listening, someone's going to go, ding, I really need to talk to Claudine. So, okay. So I will put it, of course, in the notes, and it will also be on the video version. But how will people find you? And if someone's a little stuck on the fence about, I don't know if I should call her or contact her, what would you tell that person right now?
So thank you for the invitation. One, you can find me at imclaudine.com. So really easy.
Real easy.
On my website, and I will not be recording your email address, you can take a free saboteur assessment. And that's how I know my stickler. I knew it about me already, but you get to really see, how do you gauge on all 10 of these saboteurs. The judge is one of them, but the other 9. And, it can give you a peace of mind. You're going to go, wow, this does seem like me, but I wonder how it's impacting my relationships and myself. I would be more than happy. Also, you could book a free session, and it's just to interpret the results. Or like me and every coach, you're entitled to a free discovery call. See if it's a fit, right?
Yeah.
Does this person speak my language? Do they call forth a part of me that is curious, that wants a shift? Is there that energy created between myself and the client? I think people get to owe themselves that, and it's free. There's no investment here except for yourself. Right. I encourage people to do that all the time, even before, have a session with me, have a session with other coaches, see what it's about. Right. Know this is one of your choices. So that's how they can get hold of me. And again, the saboteur assessment is right there. You can just click the link, and it'll take you right there.
IamClaudine.com, which is very easy. And because that's also your Clubhouse handle, like all of these handles are all I am Claudine, which makes it easy to find you.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's great. It's great.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I got to ask you, so what is one thing you're going to then tell everybody once they work with you or work with their coach or work through whatever they're working through and they found their happiness and now they're ready to go out and do something else about it? Yep. What are you going to recommend?
I am going to recommend in September every year a released dam called the Gully in West Virginia.
Okay.
And when they release the dam, it creates a 5+ rapids. It's whitewater rafting.
Ooh.
And when I thought about why I go there, because I think it's also an example of a surrendering.
Okay.
Right? We have our laws, Wendy. We have societal laws, and then there's nature's laws. And it's nature's laws that we live by, but man tries hard to fight them. And when we're in an atmosphere of nature like that, 5+ rapids, because 6 is the highest, it really is about cooperation in the boat, because you're with other people. There's a leader.
Trust.
So you're a follower and you're a leader. And there's a surrendering, and you have to show up. You have to participate. You have to really position. And it's our presence, our commitment. And I think that's really like an example of all that coming together. Yeah. Like an activity that will have your butt cheeks get a little puckered.
Yeah.
And have you show up in your highest potential.
Yeah.
Right. And an aliveness, by the way, it's absolutely stunning because you're in a gully looking up at, it's a mini version of the Colorado River.
Yeah.
But it's an extraordinary experience of going down waterfalls, 14-foot waterfalls. And I really think for people, it's growth mindset, an embodiment of an activity, right? What awaits me? Who can I be? How can I show up harmonious with this team to have the best experience for myself and others? Because we're responsible for what we put out for others when we're in a raft and in life.
And in life.
That would be what I would say. But whitewater rafting, but the Gully in September, because it's released, creates a different experience.
Well, that's awesome. And that's wonderful. More on the East Coast, because, of course, I know a lot of stuff going on the West Coast. So I'm always looking for my East Coast answers for when I'm traveling. So now I got to put September, West Virginia, and the Gully.
The Gully. They only do whitewater rafting for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, okay. And it is a spectacular experience because it is, a dammed release. There's so much water to work with. Yeah. It's a stunning experience, and you get to camp outside on the side of the river. Oh, how wonderful! But yeah. Well, and you and I still have to get a bike trip going together. We got to work on that. Yes, we actually have a chance to. We've both been traveling so much that we haven't had a chance, but it came up again. And particularly interesting is I went to go buy a bike again, and I'm now being told wait until 2022 mid-year. I'm like, what? Actually, the wait is crazy right now. I'm working with a used old Scott. It's not bad for local 10, 15, 20 miles. But I really want to have back my hybrid. And they're like, it got robbed, by the way. And they're like, forget it. And the guy keeps trying to sell me. He's like, how about this one? You're going to need to add this, and you have to put a new seat and an extender. And like, so you're selling me an $848 bike that I still need to put $200 in improvement, and you're still telling me it's okay? I think I'll wait. So that's one of the challenges right now, honestly, is having a good bike for a good trip.
Yep, I agree. So Craigslist is an option, and the Pros Closet. Those are a couple of sites. Yeah. Pros Closet might be a little pricey, but these are good used bike sites. So consider those. Yep.
So I go about every 2 weeks to Pros Closet to a bike store, just a different one.
Yeah.
So when I was in this one last week, 2 guys came in with gorgeous bikes, not my kind, they're road bikes, the thin, very nice.
Yep.
And he goes, well, the rim's shot. I need a new rim. Where'd you get it from? Both of these men individually both bought these bikes from pawn shops. And this one was a carbon bike. And the guy said, that's about almost $2,200 bike. He goes, I got it for $200 at a pawn shop.
Oh my
and
God.
The other guy goes, no kidding. I paid $400 for this one. And the guys looked up that one and they're like, I can't remember the name of that one. He's like, that's almost a $2,000 bike. And both, I'm sitting there going, who would have ever thought a pawn shop?
Right. I would never have thought that either. Wow.
Because Let Go in the marketplace right now, or those kind of apps, there really isn't any, I would call it stellar bikes. They're
Gotcha.
Huffies, road map. There's nothing wrong with them. But they're
not
heavier.
what you're looking for, not the purpose of what you're looking for.
No, it's fascinating. So we have been talking about it, and we're like, okay, then that might not happen this year.
Okay.
If I don't have a bike that I feel like I can do it long distance, I wouldn't do. I can do 20 on this bike.
Yeah.
After that,
But
there's
it makes a difference. Yeah, it makes a difference. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll come back to it. We won't. We'll just have to table it for a little bit longer.
I'm fine with it. You can hold me to that one. I'm okay with holding to commitment. Yes.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. And again, for if you want to find Claudine or take advantage of her free assessment and option to talk with her, I highly recommend even spending a few minutes talking with you by Zoom or by phone. So IamClaudine.com and really get your mindset ready for what's next in your life. So
Exactly.
thanks so much, Claudine. Thanks for joining me
pleasure.
today. And thanks everybody for listening.